Let's start off with some breaking news. Less than an hour ago, the second murder trial of Christopher Clements ended with a mistrial. Clements was accused of first-degree murder and kidnapping of Isabel Celis 11 years ago. 9 on your side's Craig Smith has been covering this case since Isabel Celis disappeared 11 years ago. He's live at Pima County Superior Court now with the very latest. Craig?
Well, just a few minutes ago, jurors came back in the courtroom and told Judge James Marner that they felt they had no hope of coming to any sort of agreement on a verdict in this case. Remember, they need a unanimous verdict, all 12 jurors agreeing that Clements should be regarded as guilty in the death of Isabel Celis. And apparently in this case, there were a couple of jurors who could not join in one verdict one way or the other, either guilty or not guilty, and that leads to, in slang terms, in legal slang, a hung jury. A hung jury, the mistrial, which basically says, fine, we cannot reach a verdict at all. That allows the prosecutors to go for a new trial if they choose, but we won't know if they will do so for quite some time yet. The most likely time we will know is in a status conference, a case management conference on March 27th. At that point, we may get an idea of whether prosecutors intend to try Clements again in the death of Isabel Celis. So again, it's a tricky situation. It's a highly charged, and the defense in this case really hung their case on the idea of reasonable doubt. Reasonable doubt being the idea of, if you are not quite sure, you don't have to be 100% sure, but if you are not quite sure, very firmly sure that a conviction is the right decision in this case, that's reasonable doubt, and you are not supposed to convict. And that is apparently what happened in this case. Right now, we're waiting outside the courthouse to see if any of the jurors are willing to talk with us at this point. Because the case is over for them, at least, they are free to talk if they choose, but it's really kind of rare if a juror does speak. Heidi?
Craig, I have a quick question for you because I know that you've covered this trial extensively and you were here when Isabel went missing 11 years ago. You covered that for us. And you've been out there all day today waiting for a verdict to come down and for it to end in a mistrial. How likely do you think that a new trial will come about when it comes to this case?
Well, that's one of the things that it's going to be hard to tell. We're going to be watching for that status conference towards the end of the month to see what the prosecutors rule they want to do. This is probably going to be a lot of discussion in the county attorney's office. One thing that the jurors in this case were not allowed to know is that in another child abduction and murder, the case of Isabel Gonzalez, a 13-year-old, Clements is already set for life without parole plus another 16 or 17 years on top of that. But they're not allowed to know that. And this is a case that really most likely was meant to give the family an end to this case and the community as well.
All right, Craig, thank you so much. Yeah, you mentioned Isabel Gonzalez and how Clements is already serving life in prison because of that murder. So like you mentioned, this really is probably very heartbreaking because I'm sure the family is just looking for that closure. Well,